Up on the slide are the resources, the facility resources that are made part of this study. At the elementary school level, we have the Lyman Elementary School and the Brewster. We also have the Corn, and those three make up the resources here in RSD 13 for elementary school education. We have the middle school levels at Memorial and here at Strong. And then finally, the high school for the 9 through 12 high school within the system. As was mentioned earlier, one of the key drivers in terms of consideration of why have this type of study is in fact declining enrollments. You see the red horizontal line, that is the historic median for enrollment here within Regional School District 13. And over the last 10-year window, a general downward decline in terms of that number moving forward. Allie can offer much more information about what are some of the drivers, what are some of the expectations relative to this, and also what are some of the outlying kind of factors that might weigh in the future in terms of modifying that trend. I did say that what I wanted to share was a brief overview of our process. We basically see it as 4 key building blocks, the acts of collecting, listening, visioning, and then ultimately documentation. The collecting is actually our engineers and our architectural team spending time here in the district looking at each of the facilities so that we can come to understand what are the strengths of the facilities, what are the constraints relative to how they're utilized. In terms of listening, Paul Moore, along with Catherine Miller, came into each of the facilities and was able to interview the teaching staff, administration, and support staff to come to understand how are they used educationally, how are these facilities currently working, what are the strengths, and what are the areas that we know are possibilities for improvement. The third building block, that of visioning, this evening is an example of that kind of activity. You certainly know much more about your school system than we do at this juncture. We're still on a steep learning curve, but we get the benefit of asking, do you have ideas relative to any recommendations that might be put forth? And that's really what we're here to talk about this evening. Lastly, documentation. As a study, we want to provide a document that's a live, active document that can be used as a decision-making tool going forward. That's what we hope to be able to present to the Board of Ed. And our goal for that is sometime end of January to be able to end of January, early February, to be able to get to those types of decision points. Your district is unique in that the elementary program providing integrated day, contemporary day, it is it is a unique configuration for a district. It's very interesting from an educational standpoint. I know that Paul, in his time, better than 35 years of doing this type of work, it's quite unique and a standalone in terms of an offering. It seems to do a great job, in terms of providing great opportunities for young learners in terms of opportunity to look at their education through different lenses, if you will. Our hope this evening is to be able to provide a wide range of families of options. And here 4 of them are identified. Do nothing. What if we simply kept everything as it is today and move forward? Literally responding rather than being proactive. The one message that we'd like to deliver is that do nothing as an option is not necessarily a zero-cost option. These holdings, these facilities, are the largest holdings within the district, obviously. And as such, from a maintenance standpoint, from just an ongoing operational standpoint, there's a significant load relative to what does that cost to operate. So simply doing nothing does not mean a zero-cost opportunity. The next, which is maintain all schools and demo. The idea here would be that you keep the same configuration but rather than being in a proactive or a reactive stance, you are in a proactive stance. You start to decide what are those key areas that need to be addressed. What are the systems within the buildings that are known to be at the end of their useful life expectancy? Those types of questions asked, and a strategy to move forward to make those repairs on a regular basis be set in place. The issue of demo is looking to opportunities, and the one that's suggested in one of our options is we have some portables at the high school. There's an opportunity possibly, as we have a decline in enrollments, to possibly look to get those out of the system so that we don't have to heat, cool, and operate that type of space, which sometimes is less efficient to operate than more traditionally built space. Option C is beginning to look at an idea of if we have extra capacity, might we choose to look to close a building or close two buildings as a consideration. One thing that I'd like to suggest and state strongly is, although we're offering these options, we're not advocating for any of them at this point. What we're trying to do is get out on the table all the options and then look at issues and concerns. What are strengths and weaknesses as you compare options side by side? The last option is that of all new buildings up to the high school level. And that option usually gets a smile from people, and I saw several out there. It's, again, we're not advocating, we're simply saying if the question's asked, if we're doing all this work in this building, how does that compare to a new building? Well, with that study, we can have that type of response ready so that that conversation can be had. So that's the general overview of it, and at this juncture, what we'd like to do is have Paul Moore give you a description of what are some of the options that we have seen and have brought to the table for discussion this evening. And that is something that, again, we want to say we don't believe this is exhaustive, and we're certain that somebody in this room might have a better idea, and we're very much open to hear those ideas and questions.